I'm Nora Evans, and here's the unvarnished truth. At 22, I lost the use of my legs in a car accident, coming home from a job that kept my family afloat, only to roll back into their lives and find they'd already written me off. That was 6 years ago, and the sting of their rejection still sits in my chest like a splinter I can't pull out. It's a quiet hurt, the kind that festers, but also fuels you. And if you stick around, I'll tell you how I turned their cold shoulders into the fire that made me who I am today. I grew up in a crumbling two-story house on the edge of Elwood, Indiana, a sleepy town where the cornfields stretch farther than the dreams. Our place was a sagging gray box, with chipped paint and a front yard choked with weeds, the kind of home that apologized for itself. Inside, it was Mom, Dad, Grace, and me. 4 people under one roof, but never a family. Mom, Carol, was a thin woman with pinched lips and eyes that always looked past me, her hands busy fussing over Grace. Dad, Frank, was a hulking man with calloused fingers from the factory, his voice gruff unless he was talking to Grace. Then it softened, warm as the summer sun. Grace, my older sister, was their pride. Tall, with sleek blonde hair and a lazy smile that could charm anyone. She'd lounge around, dreaming big, but doing little, while I faded into the background, a wiry girl with tangled brown hair and a stubborn streak they never noticed. "Mom, I aced my history test," I'd say at 15, waving the paper like a flag. She'd nod absently from the kitchen, slicing apples for Grace's snack, and mutter, "Good job, Nora," before turning to coo, "Grace, honey, you're gonna dazzle them at that audition tomorrow." My throat would tighten, a dull pang spreading as I watched her pour love into Grace for nothing more than a half-hearted dance tryout. Dad was no different. I'd spend hours fixing an old radio in the garage, wires stripped, solder steady, and he'd grunt, "Nice work," then holler, "Grace, show me that new move," as she twirled in the driveway. I'd stand there, screwdriver in hand, invisible. By the time I hit 18, I'd graduated high school with decent grades, but no college fund. Every spare dime went to Grace's future. Mom said, "You're practical, Nora. You'll figure something out," her tone flat, like it was a fact, not a choice. Dad just shrugged. "Work's good for you." Grace smirked from the couch, flipping through a magazine. "Yeah, someone's got to pay the bills." I bit my lip, anger simmering, but I didn't argue. Instead, I took jobs. Waitressing at the diner, cleaning offices after dark, anything to keep the lights on while Grace chased pipe dreams that never panned out. Then came the accident. It was a late shift at the diner, rain slicking the roads as I drove home, my beat-up Honda rattling. I was bone-tired, hands cramped from carrying trays, when a truck swerved, headlights blinding, a horn screaming. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and I woke up in a hospital bed, legs numb below the waist. "Spinal injury," the doctor said, his voice gentle. "You're lucky to be alive." I stared at the ceiling, fear clawing my gut, but nodded. "Lucky," I echoed, my voice a rasp. Rolling back into that gray house was like stepping into a void. Mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her sigh sharp. "Oh, Nora, what a mess!" Dad glanced up from his beer, frowning. "Should have been more careful." Grace peeked from the hall, her lips twitching into a smirk. "Guess you're stuck now, huh?" My chest burned, hot and tight, but I gripped the wheelchair arms and forced out, "I'll be fine." They didn't argue, just turned away, leaving me to face the wreckage alone. The hospital released me after 3 weeks, my stumps bandaged and my head still foggy from painkillers. I rolled into that gray house in Elwood expecting, what? A hug? A kind word? Instead, I got silence and sighs, the kind that said I'd brought this on myself. Mom, Dad, and Grace didn't see a survivor. They saw a problem, and that cut deeper than the crash ever could. I'd spent years propping them up, and now, broken in a wheelchair, I was just another weight they didn't want to carry. Growing up, I'd always been the afterthought. Grace was the golden child, 2 years older, all charm and no substance. She'd flit from one grand idea to the next. Acting lessons, a Etsy jewelry business, a blog that lasted 2 posts. Mom would beam, "She's so creative," and Dad would nod. That's my girl. Meanwhile, I was the workhorse. At 16, I'd mop floors at the gas station while Grace slept in. By 18, fresh out of high school, I was juggling two jobs, waitressing at Ruby's Diner and cleaning the bank at night, because Grace's latest flop drained the grocery money. You're so responsible, Nora, Mom would say, like it was a compliment. But her eyes stayed on Grace, cooing over a necklace that never sold. College was a dream I buried fast. I'd aced history and math, even won a scholarship essay contest. But when I brought it up, Dad grunted, "We can't afford it. Not with Grace's classes. Say it." Grace's classes were a $500 dance course she quit after a week. I'd sit at the kitchen table, paycheck stubs spread out, calculating how much I could send home after rent for my tiny rented room. "You don't need school," Grace said once, painting her nails while I counted coins. "You're good at, real stuff." I'd glare, my throat tight, but kept quiet. Someone had to keep the lights on. The accident flipped everything, but not the way I'd hoped. That night, rain hammering the windshield, my hands numb from a double shift, I'd been rushing home with $50 in tips to cover the electric bill. The truck came out of nowhere, and when I woke up paralyzed, I thought maybe they'd see me, really see me. I was wrong. Mom met me at the door, her face pinched. "How are we supposed to handle this, Nora? The medical bills, the chair." Her voice trailed off, like I'd crashed on purpose. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed. "You should have taken the bus. Safer." Grace lounged on the couch, flipping channels. "Well, there goes your big hero act," she smirked, not even looking up. My hands shook on the wheelchair grips, anger boiling hot and fast. "I was working for you," I snapped. Mom just sighed. "Don't be dramatic." They shoved a cot in the living room. My old room's stairs were a no-go now, and went about their lives. I'd hear Mom whisper to Dad at night, "She's a burden now," while Grace complained about the weird vibe I brought. One morning, Dad grumbled over coffee. "Can't even get to the garage with that thing in the way," nodding at my chair. Grace laughed. "Yeah, Nora, you're blocking the vibe." My chest burned, a mix of rage and something hollow. I'd given them everything, my time, my money, my future, and they blamed me for breaking. A week later, I'd had enough. I packed a duffel, clothes, my old camera from a thrift shop, a notebook, and called a cab. "Where you off to?" Dad asked, barely looking up from his paper as I wrestled the bag down the steps. "Away," I said, voice hard. Grace snorted from the porch. "Good luck out there, Gimpy." Mom watched, silent, her arms crossed like a wall. The cab driver, a quiet woman named Rita, helped me load up without a fuss. As we drove off, the house shrank in the rear view, and I felt it, a sharp pang of loss, but a rush of something freer. I had $300 left, no job and no legs, but I wasn't theirs anymore. The cab dropped me off in Indianapolis with $300, a duffel bag, and a wheelchair that squeaked on the cracked pavement. I'd picked the city because it was close enough to reach, far enough to forget. Gritty, loud, a place that didn't pause to pity me. My new home was a one-room apartment above a pawn shop, the walls stained yellow and the sink dripping a steady beat. That first night, I parked by the window, watching headlights streak through the dark, and let the tears come. Not for my legs. I'd mourned those in the hospital, but for the family I'd never had, the one that saw me as a paycheck, then a problem. I wiped my face, grabbed my thrift shop camera, and snapped a photo of the street below, blurry, raw, real. It felt like a start. I didn't have a plan, just a stubborn need to survive. The diner jobs were gone, too fast-paced for wheels now, so I scrounged odd gigs, proofreading ads online, selling old clothes on eBay. Rent was $400 a month, and I ate ramen and bruised apples from the corner store. But the camera became my lifeline. I'd roll out at dawn, tires bumping over sidewalks, and shoot what I saw. A rusted fire escape against a pink sky, a stray cat on a dumpster, rain pooling in a pothole. My hands shook at first. Focus was tricky with no legs to steady me, but I learned to brace the lens on my chair. Each click was a small victory, a piece of the world I could claim. I posted the shots on Instagram, no filter, just captions like Day 12, Still Here, or Broken City, Unbroken Me. At first, it was just me and the void. 5 likes, maybe a bot comment. Then a stranger wrote, "This hits different. Keep going." My chest tightened, a spark flaring. More followed. Love the grit. You see what I can't. By 2022, I had 500 followers, then Feuds. A local coffee shop, Brew Haven, liked a shot of their neon sign and asked to hang it. I rolled in with a print, hands sweaty, and the owner, a guy named Leo with a scruffy beard, grinned. "You've got an eye, Nora. $20 for this one?" I nodded, stunned. My first sale. Photography wasn't just cash. It was air. I'd sit in Brew Haven, sipping free coffee. Leo slipped me, editing shots on a borrowed laptop. "You're that wheelchair photog, right?" A barista, Mia, asked one day, her nose ring glinting. "Saw you on Insta, badass stuff." I smirked. "Thanks, keeps me rolling." My account grew, 10,000, then 50,000. Hashtags like Nora Snaps trending. I bought a better camera with my savings, a Canon that felt heavy and right in my hands. By 2023, I was freelancing for local magazines, shooting abandoned factories and street murals. A gallery in Indy picked up a series, 10 prints, stark black and whites of urban decay, and sold out in a week. I stared at the $2,000 check, my name in bold, and laughed until my sides ached. My family didn't know. They didn't call, didn't write, not that I'd given them my address. I'd hear snippets from old neighbors who followed me online. Grace had tanked another business, something about custom candles. Mom and Dad were scraping by on his factory pay. They thought I was rotting somewhere, a failure on wheels. I let them. The less they knew, the freer I felt. My real family grew elsewhere. Leo, who'd frame my shots for free. Mia, who'd text me dumb memes when I was low. Followers who'd DM me stories of their own scars. "Your pics got me through chemo," one wrote. I'd read that at 3 a.m., tears prickling, and reply, "You're tougher than me." By 2024, I was 28, living in a loft with wide windows and a ramp I'd paid to install. My account hit 100,000 followers, and a national art blog called me the voice of the overlooked. I'd roll into galleries, my Canon slung around my neck, and people listened, really listened. An agent, Claire, a brisk woman with a buzz cut and a firm handshake, approached me after a show. "You're raw, Nora," she said. "I can get you a book deal. Photos, your story." I signed the next week, a $50,000 advance wired to my account. I'd sit in my loft, city lights sprawling below, and think, this is mine. They'd ignored me, mocked me, but I'd built something they couldn't touch. It was a brisk fall afternoon in 2024, and I was at a gallery opening in Indianapolis, my first solo show. The room buzzed with people, art fans, photographers, a few in wheelchairs nodding at my work. My black and white prints lined the walls, cracked pavement glistening with rain, a lone figure under a flickering street lamp. I rolled through the crowd, my Canon slung around my neck, signing a few copies of my new photo book, Fractured Light. Claire, my agent, hovered nearby, whispering about a publisher's offer. I was 28, my loft paid off, my name on art blogs nationwide, when I heard her voice cut through the hum. "Nora!" I froze, pen hovering over a page. Mom, Carol, stood there, her coat threadbare, gray streaking her thinning hair. Dad, Frank, loomed behind, his factory jacket patched, hands stuffed in his pockets. My stomach twisted, a cold knot tightening. "What do you want?" I asked, voice low, steadying my chair. Mom's lips quivered, her eyes darting around the gallery like she couldn't believe it. "It's Grace," she said, stepping closer. "She's in trouble, bad trouble. Started some online store, got scammed, owes $30,000. We're losing the house." Dad coughed, his gruff voice breaking in. "Banks foreclosing. We need help, Nora. Your help." I stared at them, my hands gripping the wheelchair arms. Grace, their golden girl, the one they'd bankrolled while I scrubbed floors, had tanked again. And here they were, palms out. "You've done well," Mom added, her tone softening, forced. "All this." She waved at the prince, the crowd. "You could save her. She's your sister." My jaw clenched. I'd pictured this moment 1,000 times, them begging, me holding the power. But it didn't feel triumphant. It felt heavy, like a stone sinking in my gut. "I sent you $200 2 years ago," I said, my voice cutting through her plea. "After the accident. That's all you ever got from me." Mom flinched, then pressed harder, her voice rising. "That was nothing. Grace could lose everything. Jail, Nora! You've got money now. Look at this place." Dad shuffled forward, his frown deepening. "We're family. You can't turn your back on us." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that turned heads. "Family!" I leaned forward, eyes locking on Mom's. "You turned your back when I rolled in with no legs, working myself dead for you." "What a mess," you said. "Should have been careful," Dad grumbled. "Grace called me gimpy while you shoved me on a cot." My voice stayed even, but it burned coming out. "Where were you when I needed you?" Mom's face crumpled, tears welling, but I saw the act, same one she'd used to guilt me into extra shifts. "We were struggling too," she whispered. Dad muttered, "You don't get it. Grace is fragile." I cut them off, rolling closer. "Fragile? She's a leech. I paid your bills while she played dreamer. I lost my legs keeping you afloat, and you blamed me." "I'm done." Claire stepped up, sensing the tension. "Nora, you okay?" I nodded, not breaking eye contact. "They were just leaving." Mom grabbed my arm, desperate. "Please, Nora, she'll die without this." I yanked free, my voice steel. "She made her mess. Clean it up yourselves." Dad's face darkened, but he said nothing, just turned away. Mom lingered, sobbing, then followed. I watched them go, the gallery chatter swallowing their retreat, my chest tight but unshaken. I watched Mom and Dad disappear through the gallery doors, their hunched figures swallowed by the indie dusk. The crowd's hum filled the silence, but my hands stayed steady on my wheelchair grips. Claire squeezed my shoulder. "You good?" she asked, her buzz cut sharp in the soft light. I nodded, exhaling a breath I didn't know I'd held. "Yeah, it's over." And it was. Those ties, frayed and rotten, snapped clean that day. I rolled back to the signing table, pen in hand, and kept going. They didn't deserve another second of my story. Cutting them loose felt like shedding a coat I'd outgrown. Stiff, heavy, useless. I was 28 now, and my life was mine, built brick by brick from the rubble they'd left me in. My loft became my fortress. High ceilings, wide windows, a dark room I'd rigged for my prince. I'd roll onto the balcony some nights, the city's pulse thrumming below, and feel peace. No Mom's guilt trips, no Dad's grunts, no Grace's smirks. Just me, my cannon, and a world that saw me. Fractured Light hit bookstores that winter, a hardcover of my best shots paired with short essays, raw slices of my life. It climbed the charts, and a film scout called Claire about a documentary. I'd stare at my bank balance, 6 figures strong, and think, this is real. Success didn't erase the scars. I'd catch my reflection in the loft's glass, brown hair still messy, green eyes harder now, and see the girl who'd fought for this. My Instagram, or Nora Snaps, buzzed daily. 200,000 followers tagging me in their own gritty shots, thanking me for showing the beauty in broken things. One DM stuck with me, from a kid named Sam, 20, who'd lost a leg to cancer. "Your work kept me going," he wrote. I typed back, throat tight. "You're already enough, Sam." That's when I knew. This wasn't just mine anymore. Every print I sold, every talk I gave, was a thread connecting me to people like him. I'd gone from a ghost in Elwood to a voice people leaned on. Grace and them? Word trickled back through old townies who followed me. She'd crashed with a cousin after the scam, still dodging creditors. Mom and Dad lost the house, living in a rented trailer now, his factory hours cut, her nagging sharper than ever. They'd email sometimes, subject lines like, "We're sorry," or "Nora, please." I'd delete them unopened, my finger steady. Guilt flickered once, late at night. But then I'd hear Grace's gimpy taunt, "Mom's, what a mess." And it faded. They'd chosen their path. I wasn't their lifeline. Leo called one day from Brewhaven, his voice crackling. "You're viral again. Sacha Nora Unbrokens everywhere." I pulled up Instagram. My post about the gallery showdown had blown up. Sometimes you save yourself by letting go. Thousands of likes, comments like "icon move," and "this is strength." A woman, Ellie, wrote, "My mom ditched me too. Your pics keep me sane." I replied, "You've got this, Ellie." The internet wasn't just a platform. It was proof I'd turned their neglect into a beacon. The real payoff came at a gallery talk last month. 300 people packed in, eyes on me. I wheeled on stage, lights hot, and told it all. The jobs, the crash, the family who bailed, the lens that saved me. The room went quiet, then roared when I said, I didn't need them to rise. I needed me. After, a guy, maybe 30, approached, his limp matching mine. "I'm Tim," he said, clutching my book. "Lost my job, my leg's in a wreck. You made me try again." I signed it, to Tim, unbreakable, and watched him leave, head higher. My chest swelled, warm and full. Every shot I took, every word I shared, was a fist to the past and a hand to someone else. So here I am, 28, richer than they ever imagined, respected by strangers who feel like kin. I don't check on Grace or wonder if Mom's still whining. I don't care. I've got my art, my voice, a life I carved alone. That girl who scrubbed floors, who rolled away with $300, she's a force now, and she's not stopping.